strength, it's the legacy, it's the faith, it's the history, unerased, of a sisterhood, of a race. It's the strength for me, it's the strength, it's the legacy, it's the faith, it's the history, unerased, of a sisterhood, of a race.
When October drew to an end, so too did Pink Ribbon Breast Cancer Awareness Month. For Black women, can we simply be aware 1 month out of 12? No way. We must be on it 365, 24/7, and not simply aware, vigilant. These stats are staggering, the stakes astronomical. Black women have the highest mortality rate of any U.S. racial or ethnic group. We're diagnosed later, die sooner, younger, with higher chances of recurrence. Our risk of death are 71% higher than white women and twice their mortality rate when we're under 35. Compared to our white counterparts, we have more than a 60% rate of metastatic cancer, which means spreading to other organs. Ad Council research found that 92% of Black women agree breast health is important, but a mere 17% have taken steps to understand the risk. It's time to take on risks with active vigilance. Average participation by Black women in breast cancer clinical trials overall is less than 3%. Repeat, 3%. Our well-founded mistrust in the health research establishment should be outweighed by these abysmal death prospects. Without greater participation in clinical trials, the physiology and causes that surround these disparities will continue to send us to premature graves. We are survivors on many fronts. Let's stare down the dour data and emerge on the other side for our future, our children, and our still unfolding legacy. To quote meta survivor and thriver Ricky Farley of Touch Black Breast Cancer Alliance, right now, we really don't have time to die. For Unerased, Black Women Speak, I'm Gwen McKinney.
Welcome back to Unerased, Black Women Speak. My name is Carolyn Malachi, and I'm here today with yet another incredible guest.
My name is Ricky Fairley, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Touch, the Black Breast Cancer Alliance.
Welcome, Ricky. Let's start with a conversation about Touch, the organization you founded during a period of extreme upheaval, not the least of which being your own cancer diagnosis. Talk us through the experience of rewriting your entire life as you did so courageously.
Sure. I had triple negative breast cancer, which is a subtype of breast cancer that affects Black women at 3 times the rate of white women. About 30% of Black women with breast cancer have triple negative breast cancer. What makes triple negative breast cancer different is that it's the most aggressive, it has the highest mortality rate, and it's the only breast cancer subtype that does not have a drug to prevent recurrence. It's very aggressive. Black women get it at late stages and earlier ages, and it's killing us. I'm very blessed because I'm now a 10-year survivor of triple negative. My doctor gave me 2 years to live, and I'm on 10. I know that God left me here to do this work, and I've been an advocate ever since I got better.
Wow, Ricky. When it comes to Black women, despite all of the public fanfare during the month of October, why is it taking so long for us to turn the corner in decreasing the occurrence and severity of the disease in our demographic?
Well, Black women have a 42% higher mortality rate. Black women like me who've had breast cancer have a 71% higher risk of death. Black women have a 39% higher recurrence rate than white women. And the most frightening statistic for me is that Black women under the age of 35 get breast cancer at twice the rate and die at 3 times the rate of white women. And that's well before they would have gotten their first mammogram at 40, right? What's happening in sort of this breast cancer ecosystem is that we don't have drugs that work on our bodies. And frankly, right now, there's 3% participation in clinical trial research. So if you think about all the breast cancer treatments and medications that are on the market now and available for everyone, there's only been 3% Black women in the trials. So we don't know if the drugs work. We don't have the science. And frankly, the standard of care drugs didn't work for me. I took the standard of care drugs. I'd had a double mastectomy. I did 6 weeks of radiation. And guess what? My cancer came back a year later, which is very typical for triple negative. And I ended up taking some experimental drugs at the time, which have now become standard of care, but that's what saved my life. I really started my foundation because I wanted to start a movement to get more Black women into the science and get pharmaceutical companies to recognize the severity of the need for them to have Black women in their research and in their science as they're developing drugs. So why is that not happening? Carolyn, you know why? Because, the first thing we think about is Henrietta Lacks, the syphilis study. We're afraid of research. As a race, we're afraid of research, right? So, and rightly so, it's earned mistrust in the medical system. But we have to get over that. There are a lot of protocols and regulations in place to prevent bad science from happening. But we have to get both the pharmaceutical companies and kind of the clinical trial ecosystem understanding the needs of Black women to get us into research. So I'm on a movement to do that. And I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor. I'm a marketing person. I spent my whole career trying to convince people to buy products they probably don't want or need. I gave a lot of people cavities and obesity and diabetes when I worked at Coke. But I know how to message. And right now, none of the messaging is working. So I'm really working hard on how to talk to Black women differently about science, about clinical trial research, and about the need to save our lives from breast cancer. And frankly, I may not be able to cure breast cancer, but I at least want mortality rate parity for Black women.
My name is Deltra James, and my pronouns are she, her, and I am a baddie ambassador for the Breast of Us, as well as the Diversity and Inclusion Coordinator for Project Life NBC. At 33 years old in summer of 2019, I discovered a lump in my left breast. I discovered it myself, just like the majority of women do. I was definitely too young to have started receiving mammograms, and I had no family history. I didn't think much of it, but I still didn't want to ignore it. So I went ahead and made an appointment to see my doctor, and she said the results for your biopsy came back, and unfortunately it is cancer. And after that, it was just like a whirlwind of lots of appointments. So I was stage 4 from the beginning, or as we call it, de novo, stage 4 right out the gate diagnosis. I don't remember really showing much emotion. She delivered the news in probably the best way you could tell someone, hey, you have an incurable disease at this point. I have 5 daughters. The baby is 6. The oldest is just about to turn 16. And I'm a very open, honest mom. I just, deliver the messages in different ways, based on the age. I don't want to create lots of fear and anxiety in them, but I also want them to be aware of the reality. That's why I don't hide my diagnosis whatsoever. I would want them to be a bit more vigilant, but at the end of the day, it's their bodies and their own choices to make. I don't want to instill fear in them, and I don't want them to live out their lives in a way that maybe is dictated by fear. I want them to have the best chance at not receiving a cancer diagnosis.
Ricky, is there anything in the messaging that makes Black women go, maybe?
So I spent this year doing a lot of research, talking to Black women to understand what their emotional barriers are. Clearly, we understand the technical barriers, the social determinants of health and transportation and I'm afraid and money, whatever, all those things. But I wanted to dig into their psyches to say, okay, what is creating this fear? Take Henrietta Lacks off the table. And what I learned was pretty alarming. And Our breasty community, it's a club that you do not want to be in. And what I learned in talking to a bunch of breast cancer patients and survivors, that they are passing along wrong information to other breasties. So they'll have a conversation with the doctor, and really in most circumstances, the patient has to bring the clinical trial conversation up to the doctors. Doctors are not asking Black women to be in trials. But even when they have those conversations, what they do instantly is they reach out to another breastie like me. They call me up and say, okay, the doctor said XYZ, but Ricky, what do you think? And what I learned was that breasties were saying things like, oh my God, girl, don't do that. You're going to get the sugar pill and die. Or you don't want to be a guinea pig, or you don't want to be an experiment. What the science is all about is just not clear to them. Our first effort, and we're starting a movement to talk about this, is to educate our breastie community about what does standard of care mean. Guess what? There is no sugar pill in cancer research. And just explaining that in simple terms, they get it. And we can show data that says that people who participate in clinical trials have better outcomes, live longer, and have more success. And showing that information is very compelling. Also, that chemo that you're taking right now, or that you took 5 years ago, or whenever you took it, that was a clinical trial in your body, because that drug had never been tested on a Black woman. And so by those simple messages, and really the most compelling message that really is effective is do it for your daughter, do it for your daughter, do it for your granddaughter. Because, we are these powerhouse, badass Black women, and we wear the purple cape. We take care of everybody. We put ourselves last. So do it for somebody else that you love.
Many wellness outreach efforts are now focused on getting Black women to speak openly about our struggles and illnesses, since it's not been our practice to, and as our elders warned us, we don't want to air our dirty laundry. Ricky, you've taken Touch into social media as a forum for conversation and awareness. What prompted you to be so public?
I don't want Black women to die. There was a study done a couple of years ago by the Ad Council that said that 92% of Black women are aware of breast cancer. Okay, everybody knows about it, right? 25% actually talk about it, and only 17% act on their risk. It's not a kitchen table conversation. So I'm trying to bring that conversation to our everyday life. And I have this amazing Hbcu internship program where I've had 15 girls work for us this year. And we asked them to have a conversation with their moms and with their best friends about breast health and make a video. And in every case, that was the first conversation they've had with their mom about breasts. They've talked about birth control, they've talked about sex, but they've never had a conversation about, Mom, did you get your mammogram? Do we have breast cancer in our family history? And so we're trying to make those conversations happen in the households. And I really see these young Black women as a way to do that. Not only are they educating their peers on social media with us, but they're talking to their moms and their grandmas. What other things are going on in our families that we all should be talking about? Because we need to talk about health in our community, and we are not.
My name is Ariana Apodaca. I normally just go by Ari. I'm currently a radiation therapist located in Austin, Texas. Ironically enough, I heard about Touch because I was in a breast cancer group on Facebook. I am a 2-time breast cancer survivor myself. My first cancer journey, I felt like I was a little bit more secretive about it. I wasn't as open. So my second time, I tried to make it a mission to be more open about it, and it really opened a lot of doors for me. I was diagnosed with breast cancer when I was 19 years old, and I was diagnosed again when I was 21. And ironically enough, I went to school to be a radiation therapist, and it was already my major before I was even diagnosed. I see things as a different perspective that they can't always reach being just so young. There's nobody else in the foundation that's as young as me, so, I get to reach a different audience than a regular breast cancer survivor would. And so I feel like we should start breaking some of those generational curses of keeping things a secret and not having those conversations. So I would just say getting out of the comfort zone and paying attention to your body and being your own advocate as well. If you feel like something is suspicious in your body and the doctor dismisses it because you're young, go and get a second opinion. Other women have been dismissed by doctors and then they had stage 4 cancer and now they have to take a pill for the rest of their life. Don't be scared because you're paying these doctors You're paying these doctors for them to deliver the news and make all of these studies. And I'd say use your money wisely and use it to its full advantage.
Big facts. To close this out, Ricky, you're very candid about your children and your grandchildren being your biggest motivation for beating the odds of your diagnosis. But what do you say to encourage women who do not have children of their own or a strong family unit of support? How do we keep them going?
I know you have somebody you love. The mortality numbers are just devastating. Like no disease is worse than this for Black women relative to white women. And we have to, take care of ourselves. And breast cancer does not discriminate. It does not discriminate. 1 in 8 women will get it overall. But for Black women under 35, they'll get it at twice the rate. This is a horrible silent killer. And we can't let it be silent anymore. We have to talk about it. And right now, we're seeing so many serious tumors, huge tumors, because people did not get screened during COVID. That added a whole nother element of severity to the situation. And so we can't let this happen. Take control of your life. Take control of your destiny. Take control of your health. And know, that you can change the odds here for yourself and your family and whoever you love. Whether you have kids or not, you love somebody in your life, I hope.
What a great way to end this conversation on love. Thank you so much, Ricky Fairley, for joining us today.
My name is Brandy Proctor. I am the daughter of a brave breast cancer warrior who fought this hateful disease for 18 years. I am also a previvor myself, and I work at Fox 45 television in Baltimore. For me, breast cancer vigilance starts with not taking no for an answer. I think so many times as women, you listen to the doctor, and then you may kind of feel like you're being a hypochondriac if you ask too many questions, or you're being a worrywart, or you're being a pest. And it's okay. You can be all those things because it's your life that matters. And so I grew up watching. My mother was vigilant. My stepfather was a doctor. She was at every specialist all the time. She knew that something was wrong, and she was right. Unfortunately, technology was a little different in the early 90s, late 80s. And so by the time they found it, it had metastasized, it had spread. But that gut feeling that she had, she stuck with. And so for me, having doctors at a young age kind of tell me that I'm too young for that, or I don't feel anything, all of those things, if I went to one doctor and I didn't like what they said, I had no problem going to another one and another one and another one until I found someone who I felt understood all of my concerns and my issues and was just as concerned and cared as much about my life as I did. I'm that one that gets on my friend's nerves. I'm like, okay, have you had your mammogram? It's not just for October. Now, you got birthday coming. It's time for your mammogram. And not just mammogram because, there are questions about whether mammograms are necessarily the best thing, but whatever it is for you. Do you need an MRI? Do you need an ultrasound? Do you need to follow up? Do you need to talk about that birth control that you've been on for the past 17 years? I am a previvor because I felt like my life depended on it. And I felt like I owed it to my children to do what I felt was radical, was scary, was the most maybe over the top thing that I'd ever done. But I knew that my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer, advanced breast cancer at 37. And she passed away when she was 55. And she asked God to let her see us graduate and grow up. And she did. And she also asked to see grandchildren, and she never met them. And so I felt like if she had been given the option that I was given at 37 to be able to see her grandchildren, if she got her breast removed, she would have done it, and she would not have thought twice about it. So I was scared. I hemmed and hawed over it. Honestly, I took a little longer than I probably should have. We talked about it for years. I had this whole plan for how it was going to be when I got my breast removed. I was going to go in to the hospital, and I was going to have my girlfriends, and we were going to have this whole party. And then COVID came, and none of that was going to happen. And I cried and cried. And I said, you know what? I have to do it by myself. it was just me and God, and I knew that that's what had to happen. So I did it, scared, and it was hard. And when my doctor called and told me it was negative, and I said, oh my gosh, we won. We beat it. That is my story. I'm a pre-viver 1,000%. It's not easy, but I'm blessed and thankful that that is my story, at least for now.
Barbara Watson Riley lost her valiant fight to triple-negative breast cancer on November 7th, 2013. The Pink Well Chick Foundation grew out of her desire to get people talking about breast cancer and heart issues that we tend to ignore as we go about our daily lives. It also led to her writing a play that gives voice to the essence of survivor stories, titled Life in the Cancer Lane. So to close out this episode, actor Joylette Harris shares a monologue from that production.
My name is Joylette Harris. I am a Philadelphia actress and singer, and this piece means a lot to me. Unfortunately, I lost my 59-year-old sister last month to breast cancer. I'm a survivor. I'm gonna make it. I will survive. Keep on surviving. How many of you know a survivor? I mean, what does that mean exactly? I'm still not 100% sure. Technically, a survivor is a person who continues to function or prosper in spite of opposition, hardship, or setbacks. But by that definition, aren't we all survivors of something? I survived rush hour this morning. I survived being in the house with these kids all damn day. Does it mean I survived hearing the words, "You have breast cancer"? Or is it that I survived telling people I have breast cancer? Or is it that the body has survived not just the cancer, but also the poking and prodding and cutting and chemical assault? I've met women who refuse to say they are survivors. They use words like fighters, conquerors, or winners. All right, no judgment. I guess we're all just trying to identify ourselves in our new reality. When I was first diagnosed, I was scared to say I was a survivor. I hadn't started treatment yet, hadn't fought it yet. I felt like I was claiming a title that I hadn't earned. I asked my doctors, okay, when am I a survivor exactly? You wouldn't believe all the answers I got. After treatment. 5 years after treatment. Now, later, not helpful. 2 days before I started treatment, I was doing a breast cancer walk, one I had done for years. But this time was different. I wanted that pink survivor shirt so bad. I was no longer just a supporter. I was one of them. So I asked the head of the race if I could wear a survivor shirt, even though I hadn't started treatment. She took my hands in hers and told me she already had one for me. She hugged me and told me that I was already a survivor. All I could do was cry. I was now truly a part of the community. That knowledge fueled me. It was my first piece of armor in my fight against breast cancer. I wore my shirt with pride at the walk. And then again, the first day of chemo. Every day I live, every day I wake up, I have survived another day with this disease. Whether life in the cancer lane is 1 year or 20, being a survivor is a badge of honor, and I wear it with pride.
Thanks for listening to Unerased Black Women Speak, made possible by support from the Craig Newmark Philanthropies, the Park Foundation, TD Charitable Foundation, and anonymous donors. Our theme song is Unerased by Carolyn Malachi. We had help from Joshua Levi Perrin, Alyssa Davis, Alex Kavoris, coordinating producer Stephanie Renee, and audio producer and host Carolyn Malachi. I'm Gwen McKinney, creator and executive producer, inviting you to tune in to our next episode. And while you're there, please subscribe and visit us online at unerasedbws.com.